almost halfway there. I love the title of our next talk, Living with Insanity. Sounds interesting, right? Leslie is an instructional coach at Maple Grove Elementary. This is Leslie.
Hi. Still living with insanity. I wrote this intentionally, and I've never been I think I'm a prophecy. This is really scary. I wrote, I must be insane. Here I am standing on the stage in front of all of you, and little did I know it's 10 times that. So I'm really excited, and it's actually the idea of living with insanity that got me here. But before I go there, I want to share with you a little tip that my 6-year-old shared with me this morning. I was sitting with him, and he was half listening because PlayStation's more important than mommy. And I said, Nelson, honey, I'm really nervous today. And he goes, oh, about what? And I said, well, have you heard me talking to myself for the last 3 weeks? And I said, my speech is today. And he goes, oh. I said, do you get nervous? And no, never gets nervous. And I was like, oh, well, not once. Okay, maybe. Well, what do you do? And he goes, Mom, I just breathe and I do it because I know I have to. And I'm kind of at that have to point, so I'm hoping that you don't hear me breathe too heavily throughout the whole thing and my message kind of comes out a little bit better. But before we get into the topic, I want to share with you something else that is very much a part of what got me here today as well. And it's this quote right here. I want to share this quote because I came across it a couple years ago. It hangs in my office. It hangs in the PLC room at Maple Grove. And by surrounding yourself with amazing people like we have in this district, you find yourself doing amazing things. And though I don't know if this is going to be amazing yet, it will be amazing to be through it and to having said that I've done it. So I want to take a minute to thank all the crazies that are in this room and not in this room because they're helping keep my kids controlled. Just for everything that you've done to uplift me, whose presence inspires me, and whose dedication has driven me to be better every day. I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my loud, crazy, emotional heart. Thank you, truly, truly thank you. The topic of living with insanity literally pulled me off my couch 3 weeks ago. We were talking of this event at a PLC, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Got curious, said there at 4 o'clock, left that, not gonna do it. Went home and had this urge to go to my writer's notebook and just see what happens. And the ideas started to connect and I was feeling pretty good, so I submitted my proposal. Since those fleeting moments of creativity, I've rumbled with the reality of actually following through. And I think the thing that gets me about it is I am a talker. There's many of you in this room that are going to argue that. But the difference that makes this talk a little bit more is that it's personal. I don't like to talk about myself. Those of you who know me also know that I cry. And if you didn't know that, you might see it. But you also will hear about it later. So I truly, it's a big thing, and I'm glad I'm here, but it's frightening me to tears. Turl and I were talking about this. Danielle made me laugh hilarious yesterday. She's like, really? I think you might be being a little dramatic. And I'm like, oh, I wish I was. But it's actually happened twice. Foolish or not, I stand here because the 3 insanities that pulled me off my couch might just be worth a couple minutes of your time. The first one is living insanely curious. Curiosity stirs something inside of your head and your heart that you can't ignore. It doesn't have to be revolutionary, groundbreaking, or even relevant to anyone else but yourself. It just sneaks up on you and demands for a little bit of your time. For me, living insanely curious is like a squirrel. And I try to be professional, but when I am really curious about something, I have to push the pause button and really dig in. So a couple of my most recent curiosities I'll share with you. Often they interrupt a professional setting or leave me physically bruised. So the most recent examples are the first one. Sometimes curiosity can be knowledge-based, where you wonder why the word vomit doesn't follow the ED ending. And secondly, how do you know which syllable is accented? Literally happened in a PLC Plus setting, and if you would have told me 2 weeks ago that that would have been such a learning point, I probably would have laughed at you. But that little curiosity demanded our attention that day, and I'm glad that it did. Sometimes curiosity is play-based. My parents are, I don't know if it's empty nest or they're just still kids at heart, probably a little bit of both. but our family farm is becoming a little bit of an amusement park. We have go-karts, which I've ridden. I finally conquered my fear of a two-wheeled vehicle after crashing a gyro in a young age, which has 3 wheels, and you shouldn't be able to crash, but I managed. So have done that. The newest addition is a zip line in the pasture. Been seeing it, saw the test run, a picture of my mom flattened out in the pasture that I still laugh at out loud every time I see it. So I get home to the farm and I'm so excited. I'm like, I've been curious about this ever since the whole idea started a couple of years ago. The problem was it's icy. There's a layer of ice on the pasture, on the line, not sure how this is gonna work. So I'm standing there on the porch, I'm just looking at it, and it's just demanding a little bit of my time. And so there's just only so much thinking and planning and wondering that I could do before I had to put on my boots and truck it out to the pasture. And the whole way I'm wondering, I wonder how far I have to go up this line to make to the stop block that's supposed to prevent you from hitting the tree. It didn't. And then wondering how much of that I could still enjoy the ride. And so I did, and I have a bruise on my upper arm to prove it. The thing about curiosity is there's no best question, and there's no curiosity that's better than the other. Albert Einstein said, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. The power in curiosity for me, it comes by way of cognitive dissonance. It's that ignite, that have to know, where you can't do anything else until you figure this out. By perseverating on the have to know, you improve your learning and memory, as well as problem-solving skills and creativity. The more questions you ask, the more open you become to questioning. But the problem is asking questions is hard. I love what S. Lewis Rubenstein said, where curiosity is a willing, a proud, and an eager confession of ignorance. And I'm thinking, ignorance. Don't really want to associate that with myself. Not me, because I have a college degree from Iowa State. I have a master's, and people pay me to know things. It's kind of what I get to do for my day. But none of that matters, because the level of vulnerability and uncertainty that happens with curiosity is uncomfortable, and it exists no matter what your degree or your level of experience. Confessing ignorance, or worse, fessing up to not doing or saying something right the first time, is tricky business. There isn't an easy answer or for something to make that vulnerability any less. But feeding curiosity has to happen that way. We have to have some awareness or knowledge of things before we even know what questions to ask. Think about it. How many times do you find yourself wondering about something you're completely unaware of? It doesn't happen. For me, I'm just trying to keep up with my daily calendar and the curiosities from the staff at Maple Grove that I don't even have time to wonder what I might be missing somewhere else. As educators, as people, as adults, we have to be okay with doing the best we can until we know better. And then, when you know better, you do better. Living curiously is simply listening to those moments that we feel deprived in an understanding and being brave enough to dig into that gap more. So where do you start? What curiosities are worth exploring? The answer is all of them. Some may take 5 minutes of conversing and researching and you'll be fine. Others are going to take a lot longer. The point is to engage in the wonder, to tune in to the fierce wonderings that keep you up at night, because it's those pestering topics that lead to our second insanity, living insanely passionate. Passion is a buzzword in many fields. You can find research and blog posts on passion tied to creatives, educators, innovators, and entrepreneurs. One of my favorite stances on passion comes from Melissa Cardin, and she writes about entrepreneurial passion. She describes it as positive, intense. It's that feeling you experience for something profoundly meaningful for you as an individual. Passion is the difference between interested in something and committed to something. Nobody can assign you a passion project. Nobody can convince you to truly engage in a topic that you don't value or find in for yourself. Truth be told, when rubber meets the road, you and you alone are in that driver's seat when it comes to passion, which is also tricky because I'm a social learner. I talk to think, and I have to tell people all the time, stick with me because I'll get there. I just have to work something out. I'm not saying you can't collaborate, but what I'm saying is when hurdles come up and you get tangled in a topic and people start to doubt what you're really working toward, you have to connect to that profoundly meaningful part of passion, you, the individual. And so make sure that that topic is meaningful for you. One of my favorite narratives about hard work and determination comes from Michael Jordan's Maybe It's My Fault commercial. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to Google it after I'm done. It's a great story about a man that no one would deny his passion about the game of basketball. He talks about flash versus fire. Passion isn't about flash. It's not about the awards, the accolades, the recognition. True passion doesn't have that external driver. Passion is about fire. It's about the individual's journey, failures, and small victories. Lines of reasoning powers begin to fade as a measure of success when we dial into passion. And in its place, desire, persistence, confidence, all of those things play a much larger role in how we measure our success. Let me tell you a little story about how I learned that last one the hard way. My passion is my job. I get to work alongside amazing professionals every day who stretch my brain, feed my curiosities in every dimension of life. I get lost in my day of inquiry, laughter, and the culture that is education in my building. The building has always been that way. We've had amazing leaders, but I wasn't my first year. When transitioning to the new role, I let go of what drives my passion, and I grounded myself very intentionally in reason and logic of the job. I saw and heard what amazing professionals sounded like, what they acted like, and how they carried themselves. And with reason and logic, I tried to imitate them. I would walk the walk in the hallway, professionally versed and very well behaved. There was no singing. There was no dancing. I did not skip the first year. I was doing really well. I made it to the end of the year, and there are some of you in this room that will attest to this. I cried, which you now know is not a big thing, but it was for me, because I read a survey that's supposed to measure my success my first year, and I didn't like what I heard. And so it was my dream job and my passion, but I made it about everybody else. I lost the part of passion that makes it profoundly meaningful. I lost me. See, my passion ID oozes energy, volume, and play. That was not supposed to be funny. It was time to give those three things a space and a place in what I do. Year 2, I didn't censor my passion, and I felt whole. I felt rejuvenated. This wholehearted living I learned that year is not just for your 8 to 4, but it should be how you live every day. Passion is the one thing that will make you create the highest expression of your talent. Hashtag laugh out loud. Hashtag high energy. Hashtag no volume button. Hashtag crier. If these things were passion, or were talents, I'm definitely living at my highest expression. They are in full force of everything I do. And it was time for me to value those as well. Here's the trick though. Knowing these things about yourself doesn't give you a free pass to behave that way 24/7. Because in a job where you're working with people, not everybody operates under those systems. And so I had to learn when to tuck the crazy back in and do what I needed to do. I'm still working on that one. Peter Parker said, with great power comes great responsibility. So year 2, and every year after that, I quit apologizing for passion. And I now hold relationships, trust, and continuous growth as a measure of my success, not a survey. My last point today is another topic that has littered the pages of my writer's notebook. Live insanely childlike. The two littles on each side of this slide are teach me daily of what that means. I'll get to another, in a little bit later, I'll explain what each of them do and what they teach me. But I'm going to start in the middle for now. Somewhere along the way, most adults lost the very vital part of our creative self. In all the education and getting older, adults quit playing. The common excuse, we have to work. But in Stuart Brown's TED Talk about play is vital at any age, he reminds us that work is not the opposite of play. And I agree. With play, work effectiveness and mindset improves. There is serious work in play. Nothing lights up the brain like it. Play enhances flexibility, problem solving, and boosts creativity and innovation. Play begs you to find the answer to where is the fun in that day, every day. And that's what this image is about. We are avid Cyclone fans, and I think you might have to be insane even to be that lately. But one thing that we get to do with our kids every weekend is well, not every weekend, but we try to get to the Little Cyclone Club. And on these tables for kids are football pads and jerseys and helmets, so you can just be that hero that you see and you want to be like. And nobody was participating. And so as an adult, I said, well, why not? And so I put them on. And the college people next to me had to help quite a bit. They were laughing through the whole thing because I had bigger biceps than I thought. I couldn't get out of them. But what I love about this picture is it reminds us that as adults, we don't have to take ourselves so seriously. There's another part of living childlike, and it stems from the little lady in the puddle on the left. In this picture, she's obviously having fun. She also has very high energy and no volume button that we can find yet. She talks nonstop. But what she teaches me most about being childlike is her attitude. In this picture and in every part of her life, she has that childlike, I do it, mommy, that attitude. I think they might have been the first words out of her mouth. I do it, mommy. So she'll sit there and she'll struggle with whatever it is that she's working on until she just can't possibly, and she'll begrudgingly ask for help. But the very next chance she goes right back to it. She tries it again. As adults, we don't give ourselves enough time to really struggle with that point, with that space between wanting to know to do something and just not quite being able to. And by hiring somebody else to do it, or we're just too busy to mess with it, and maybe we don't continue to try, we really lose an opportunity to get dirty and solidifying and understanding, or accomplish great work. No sweeter success comes from a well-fought battle. Ask any toddler finally able to zip up their coat. The man on the right here, that's him to a T. He is just getting into organized sports and lives in every moment. He is caring, he is sensitive, he's all in. He is the one that I sit next to in movie theaters on purpose because he's the one that can match my laughter. But what I love most about him is he finds moments in movies that I may have missed if I haven't been sitting next to him. He's also the one that I get to sit to next to at Iowa State games, and that kid's knowledge around sports is insane. But I have video on my phone of just the break dances that happen when the band plays. And every time a touchdown happens, he jumps up, and you would have thought like a firecracker was under his seat. He lives for the moment. But for doing that, in every moment, he also gets disappointed. He gets heartbroken, and he cries. He may get that from me. I believe that we need to honor that hurt as adults too. In the disappointment and in the tears, we need to rumble with these emotions so that we can fully invest in each experience that we have. And truly, if you're not disappointed when something that you've been working on doesn't turn out, you're working on the wrong things. That audio track is saved on every device I have. I can access it from my phone, from my computer, and it's actually on a Google Play Store, so I can access it from anywhere that has the internet. And the reason I do that is because being an adult is hard. There are times where I don't want to adult. It's just tricky. There's days in our adult life where it's gloomy and gray, and that audio track is the sunshine that I need to get right back on track. As adults, we do not have to take ourselves so seriously. Jump in puddles, twirl, laugh out loud, tell a joke, have a pillow fight in the middle of the hallway. The benefits on your mood and your energy is amazing. After all, how can we energize others if we can't first energize ourselves? Childlike living is the natural bridge between being insanely curious and insanely passionate. It's finding the wonder in the world and then stopping for a moment to acknowledge the complexities and the beauty in every piece. Living insanely childish, simply put, is not losing your energy in adulthood. To me, living with insanity is doing serious work with a zest for life. And if we can do that, we may not be so insane after all.